This is Living Streams, American History, New World Wonders. It's the years 1000 through 1783. And look at this, the gold leaf. Oh my gosh. This has got to be one of the most beautiful history books I've ever seen. I saw it at the homeschool conference that I went to, and it was out on a stand, and I was drawn to the beauty. And then as I was flipping through, though, I stopped and read one of the chapters, and it was so alive. And I was like, oh my gosh, I wish we were studying this time period this year because this is such a beautiful book. And I spoke to the woman that was there, which turned out to be Jeannie Fulbright, the author. That's another great thing about homeschool conferences is meeting people. And she was like, well, it's okay. It'll be here when you do study that time period. I'm thinking like, yeah, but like I want to read it now. But she does have other ones coming out too. So we'll see when those come out. So I did tell her, though, that I like to share curriculum, and so she gave me this book to show to you guys, as well as the activity guide. So I'm very thankful for that, because these are beautiful, and they're newer, so I feel like maybe people haven't heard of them. I know I hadn't heard of them yet, and so I'm very excited to show you inside. This is a Charlotte Mason-based curriculum, and it's geared for grades 1 through 8. It's great that you can do it family style, and there's not a workbook that goes along with it. Because Charlotte Mason, it's going to be narration and notebooking and timelines and that sort of hands-on things that just brings history to life. So I really love that for history. Now, it also comes with a Maps and More package, and that was free. That was just a download that you can get afterward. So that was also very helpful, and I've printed that off so I can show you all 3 of these. All right, so let's take a look inside. Time for a real page turner. Living Streams, American History, New World Wonders by Jeannie Fulbright. She is the same author that wrote the Apologia Science Curriculum, which is also very well written. This covers AD 1000 through 1783, and it is geared for grades 1 through 8. At the beginning, she has all these quotes that are from founding fathers and people in history that talk about God and morality. Here she has a verse to start off, and then a note where she talks about how she loves genealogy and history, how she enjoys including well-known and rarely told stories. And then here, how to use the curriculum. You read it, there's a pronunciation guide in it, which I'll show you that as you go. The kids will narrate back, and she has prompts for that in this book as well as the activity guide. And then using the Book of Centuries for a different timeline, like we use our timeline on our wall, but she does have a really cool timeline book. So if you didn't want to put it on the wall, or for each kid to have their own, it's hardcover, but then it like accordion folds out. So that's a really neat resource as well. She does talk about the art in here, where most of it is public domain, but some she did use AI to make it come to life. Then here we have the table of contents. It goes from the Vikings right up through the war. And I love how this is a lay flat book. Oh, that is just so helpful when you're reading. I don't want to break a binding. I don't want to fight the cover. So this is what I saw when I was flipping through, and I was like, oh, this is just so beautiful. And then I just, whatever chapter it was on, just started reading it. Could it be true? Was there witchcraft in Salem? The town was in an uproar. People ran from house to house to spread the terrible news. Everyone was frightened. So you can see how just already it just pulls the kids right in, and me. I love that type of writing, that living writing. So I did read a couple of chapters to my sons out of this to see how it felt for them. And right here, we read about George Whitefield. So this was really good. You can see how long this is. She says that the lessons will go from like 10 to 30 minutes, depending on how long the chapters are and maybe what the activities are. So this is the chapter that I read to my sons, though. Right here you can see at the top they have the pronunciation guide. So at the top of any chapter, it will give you the year, the title of it, and then anything that you'll need help pronouncing, which I really appreciate that as well. And then at the end of every chapter, it will have a narration prompt. So for this one, it's explain what you learned about the Georgia colony. And then in your book of centuries or on your timeline, this is where you can add something. It gives you the date and then tells you a caption you could put with it and what to draw or to put on there. So like I said, this book alone could be your curriculum that you use, and that's fine. But it is nice to have the activity guide and then the maps and more if there's things that you want to add to it, or for when you're putting stuff on your timeline. The other thing is that even though a lot of this is that living story part, she will break in between. So even back here, let's see, in that chapter that we did, like for example here, it's going through this living history, you know. Not at all. Many of those men have found a far better existence here than when they were moldering away in debtor's prison. And then here she kind of transitions. At this time in history, England had a severe problem with debtors, people who couldn't pay their bills. If someone didn't pay their bills in England, they were sent to a particular prison called debtor's prison. So you can see some of it's that living story, and then some of it breaks to explain what they're talking about, which I really like that too, because literally right before I read this, my kids go, "What's debtor's prison?" So, and I was like, well, look at right here. It's going to explain it. So that was helpful too. I really like the way that this is set up. And then it goes back into the living story. So it kind of pops in and out, but it does it in a natural way. It felt really seamless and enjoyable to read. Now, she did recommend that you pre-read if you have sensitive or young kids, because this is 1st through 8th. So, you know, the way an 8th grader is going to take something is different than how a 1st grader might take it. Because she does include things like war, battles, cruelty, injustice, violence, things like that that are true to history. Not making them dramatic, but just acknowledging what has happened. In the end, you'll see it has the European countries that colonized the New World. So this is kind of an interesting aside as well. There are 57 chapters total, and in the activity guide, I can show you a schedule. All right, on to the activity guide. You can see this is a lot thinner, but there's lots of content in here. At the beginning, she talks about all the things that are included. There's a schedule. This would show you doing 4 days per week for a 30-week school year. There's also notebooking activities and geography, handicrafts, games, bonus historical lessons. Now, these are not written in the historical fiction style so much. These are more written about something in history or something to do with the historical lesson, but still very well written and interesting. At the end, there's an oral exam and final writing activities. Then there's the end of the year celebration, and she also has a supply list in here. She does encourage people to reach out to her for support if they have questions. You can see here all the chapters are the same. We've got 57 chapters of bonus content. Now this is the schedule. You can see here how on day 1 and 3 you're reading a chapter and doing some activities, and then on day 2 and 4 you're doing the other activities. And the activities change, so there's always notebooking that's going on, but then there's different activities that she kind of rotates through as you go through the various weeks. Here's a supply list, and it's broken down by week. I would say most of the things on here are things that are general household items, but there are a few things that are odd, or perhaps you wouldn't have a large amount of them or the right amount depending on how many students you have. So you'll want to look at this ahead of time. And this is buffet style, so don't feel like you have to do it all. You pick and choose what's best for your family. And if that's just doing a couple of these things, then that's fine. And if it's doing all of these things, then that's also fine. So you can see there's always the notebooking at the top, and it does step by step. So she does want you to have a blank notebook to go along with this, and she does sell some that are beautiful faux leather notebooks, but as long as they're unlined so that the kids can notebook the way that they want to. Here we've got a drawing tutorial. Here we've got origami, which does have a video, and that video was helpful. I did try going through this, and I pretty much got it, but watching the video was helpful. For the geography activities, that's where the maps and more printable can come in handy. She did say it's important not to have your kid frustrated with maps. So it is okay to not have them do their own hand-drawn maps if that's causing frustration. Do what's right for your kids, and I love that. Okay, right here you can see this is one of those added history sections. So again, it's not using quotations and lots of adjectives to get into the story, but it is still very well written and teaches you something that connects with the story that you are learning. Okay, and I'll flip through so you can get an idea of some of the other things that you'll see in here. Lots of different ideas. I definitely think this is a beneficial resource to go along with it. And if you're a hands-on teacher or your kids are really hands-on, then this is a must for history. In the back, she does have the oral exam. And she says you don't have to do this for every student, but if in your state you need grades or if you want to do it, then that's fine. With Charlotte Mason, it's definitely about learning for knowledge's sake and joy of learning, less than checking the box of memorize this for the test. Then after that, she has writing a book review and a letter to the author as writing options. Then there's also this celebration party that you could do at the end, and lots of ideas for that. All right, and we'll move on to the maps and more section. Now this was a free printable that you can get after you purchase the curriculum, and it's right on her website. This is, again, maps for people who don't like to do maps, or if this would be helpful for your family. Now, you can see right here, like I have a blank page. I printed this out so it was one per page. You can print it back and front, but I did find that a couple of the activities will have a template, and if they have a template, then you really do want the back to be blank. So, okay, let's go through what's in here. She has a supplies list and shopping list at the beginning, and then you can see here, it's not every chapter that has a maps and more page. And that really just depends on what's in the activity book and what the kid might need to be doing. So you can see just the chapters that need a map or a template would be included. Okay, again, we have these supplies by week, and she has them all checked off here. So that's really nice because you can just look ahead or maybe even get stuff ahead. But then she also has a master shopping list, which is also very helpful because then you can just run down through and be like, okay, what do we already have versus what do we need, and get it all at once. There's another copy of the schedule in here, and I think that's helpful because then if you have it printed off, it would be easy for you to make notes or cross things off or add things in, whatever you're going to do to make it your own. Okay, and then here it gets into the map, so you can see here, chapter 1 does have a map, so they can use this or draw their own, depending on the child, but then the next one is lesson 4. So 2 and 3, they will not need a map, or maybe they'll be adding on to the map that they already have. Here shows like a template. This was that boat I was talking about where you can make it little, but you could also make it big. So whereas like this in the activity guide, she shows a picture of what the template would look like. So you can just cut it on your own and do it on your own. But this could really be helpful for somebody if they're not so good with like freehanding and looking from one picture to make another thing. So definitely a good resource, and where it's free. You don't have to print the whole thing off either. You could leave it on your computer and just print the pages as you need them based on what you decide to do. Okay, so then here is the final oral exam. And you can see here where she goes over the Charlotte Mason mindset behind exams. Learning to love, or loving to learn, either way. And, you know, not it being about test taking, not letting it be frustrating, not about performance, not about memorizing for the test. It's about gaining knowledge. And then here with the answers, you'll see that the a lot of the questions are, you know, like here, who was Sir Francis Drake and what is something he did? So then here she'll have different things about him. Now, one thing that I would say is that, for example, on this page where it asks about name 2 facts about the life of Ben Franklin, she gives answers will vary, and she only lists 2 answers. So if you're not really solid on what was going on in this history book, let's say that maybe your kid read it on their own, or you just have trouble remembering this kind of stuff, you might have to fact check the things that they say to you, but you know, that's something that you would have to do on your own. But for the most part, she has lots of different options for possible answers. So that is helpful where these are more open-ended questions. Okay, so that was the end of that. Well, as you can see, there's a lot to this curriculum, and yet it is still simple and it is beautiful. And I'm very excited to read more of this to my sons because we did really enjoy the 2 lessons that we read already. I hope this was helpful for you. Remember that real life is messy and beautiful, and better with books. Now, even though it's a buffet and there's lots to choose from, it's not that overwhelming. I was probably a smidge dramatic. It explains, should I cover that? I just am so eclectic, it's hard for me to commit to things. Okay,